Chris, this is where I want to bring you in, because Ryan begins to talk about the norms here that we have seen bent, if not broken, during the Trump administration, even just in these last 7 or so months. What's standing out to you about what we've seen both at Bolton's home in Bethesda, but then also now his office? What questions would you be asking? I mean, where should we be putting our attention?
Well, I think there's the concern, right? That's kind of hovering above everybody's head. Is this part of some retribution campaign? And we don't know if it is or not. I mean, it certainly looks suspicious and coincidental. However, a case agent, from the FBI would have had to have gone before a magistrate judge with probable cause that there was evidence of criminal activity at these locations to be searched. So, Ambassador Bolton, as does every American, has protections under the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure. So that case agent has to say what the evidence that might be present there is and what areas they want to search. So my question would be, who's the affiant? Is it somebody that has political leanings? But who signed off on this? This would fall under what in the FBI is called a SIM, a sensitive investigative measure, likely approved by the Attorney General. And then also, who's the magistrate? What are the leanings of that he or she may have that would allow this to happen? And the other thing, this looks high profile. Traditionally, in a sensitive matter like this, FBI agents would contact this high profile individual and discreetly make contact with their counsel, perhaps, and facilitate the search. We call it a cup of sugar knock on the door. You're going to your neighbor to borrow a cup of sugar, not in raid jackets unless you wanted a spectacle, which is what we have on our hands now. So those are all the things that kind of immediately come out to me.
Yeah, and the optics have always been the point with this administration, whether it's everything from immigration deportation efforts or potentially now when it comes to this FBI raid. I do want to ask a follow-up based on what you're talking about with the magistrate judge. What are his leanings? What were the questions asked? Is that information that we would typically get in short order? I seem to remember from the Trump raid, which is different. It's a former president, not the former national security advisor, but still very sensitive, high-profile individuals. Ultimately, we did see a heavily redacted version of that warrant. I mean, do you think that there's pressure there for that kind of stuff to be released? Is that typical?
Well, there'll be pressure for sure. Yeah. Whether this administration releases it, I would think not. But what we'll get the search returns. So what has to happen when the search team, which will be a combination of the case agents, the special agents who own this investigation, and the evidence response team, when they leave a location, they will leave a search return with either Ambassador Bolton or his representative, where they searched, what they took, what items were seized. They'll do it at both locations, the home and now the office, and any place else they go. It also gives some general information about the justification that allowed them to, overrule his Fourth Amendment protected rights against illegal search and seizure.
And ultimately, that's going to be so crucial to our understanding of what happened here. But, Peter, I don't have to tell you why the politics and the retribution ride so closely together when we're looking at this legal issue for John Bolton. Can you remind us of the history of these two men? It has been very high profile, and it has spanned many, many years of our Trump coverage.
Yeah, you're right. And the two, worked side by side during the president's first term. The relationship dates back at least for 7 years, 2018, 2019, about a year and a half period of time that John Bolton worked as the national security advisor for Donald Trump. We do know that relationship quickly frayed. He was effectively fired. His termination, he was asked to resign by the president, who posted about this routinely publicly on then Twitter at the time. And we know that in the president's first acts, among them during his second term, he then revoked the security clearance for John Bolton. He separately revoked the security detail, the protective detail that Bolton had as well. That detail had been provided to Bolton after some death threats that were directed at the former national security advisor, specifically coming from the IRGC, coming from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, after Bolton, then as national security advisor alongside Donald Trump in the first term, played a role in the ordering of the killing of Qasem Soleimani, one of the leaders of the Revolutionary Guard back then. We should note that while Bolton served for Donald Trump, he also served for another former Republican President George W. Bush as well.
Yeah.
He served for him as a State Department official, also served as a UN ambassador there. But clearly no love lost between these two. And you talk about this idea of retribution. You know, the president can make his own defense on that issue, but we have heard this topic spoken about publicly by Bolton himself, who referred only a couple of weeks ago during a conversation on the sort of Trump presidency to the Trump presidency as what he called a retribution presidency. Those allies of President Trump right now are pointing, as all cameras are focused on Bolton's home in Bethesda, Maryland right now, and an investigation focused on the retention of classified documents. We're told they've been pointing to Bolton's comments a couple of years ago on this network, MSNBC, where he said, among other things, that it was very disturbing, the allegations of Donald Trump retaining classified documents. Allie?
Christy, we've talked a lot over the course of the last hour and a half or so about the probable cause that evidence will be found. We don't know what has been found, and we're not sure what the underlying reasons were that they ultimately got a judge to go along and sign off with this warrant. But what if that evidence isn't found? Where does that then go next?
Well, presumably there is some basis for these agents and prosecutors to believe if this is an investigation about leaking classified information, that there is some classified information to be had in that house. It's not enough to say he has the information. It's that there's also probable cause to believe that it's in this home, that it's in this location. And it can't be stale. It can't go back to years ago when he wrote his book. It's got to be, we have reason to believe it's there now. And they would have to make that showing to a judge. A judge would need to sign off on that in order to be able to get this search warrant. What the next steps are, okay, you have probable cause to believe there's classified information in the house. Do you have probable cause to believe that he's committed a crime such that you can actually go to a grand jury and get an indictment? And really the key there is going to be his intent. We saw this when Donald Trump was charged, right? If you are just, if you are sharing classified information, but you're doing it unknowingly, you don't know that it's classified, it's not stamped, it was never clearly stated to be classified, then it's going to be hard to prove that you've committed a crime here. So there has to be a knowing action here. It has to be willful in order to be criminal. And so whether or not they're able to meet that threshold and show John Bolton's intent remains to be seen.